Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do the second part of my alternate beginner's lesson. If you remember last time we were talking about basically getting a feeling for the golf club swinging and how with the correct grip you can almost make it a certainty that the club is going to swing back to the golf ball. But first of all, really getting the feeling that the golf club can swing around your wrist joints. As soon as you start to build on that, then the work of the body starts to become more important. If you think of a golf swing as being built of just two different systems, what the arms and hands are doing to lift and swing the club, and what the body is doing, a bit like the frame work with a motor built in, which is going to hold the body, the swing stable, but at the same time propel it. And that's basically what we're going to get into today. So in extending the swing from this basic kind of pendulum movement around your wrist joints, what we've got to do is start to pick the club up and move it into plane. The plane of a golf swing, you can see better from the down the line camera, is basically being created by getting the golf club to swing up and around your wrists in the same angle to the ground as it had in the address positions. Quite simply then, when I get it up here, I can sink my arms, release the wrist angle, and the club wants to swing back more or less where it was. Supporting this lifting and hinging of your wrists is the rotation of the body, which is one of the reasons that we can't simply stand upright when we're in the address position. We want to have a decent stance, which is around about shoulder width apart, the heels standing more or less underneath your armpits, and a slight bend in the knees to allow your legs to work. And then you want to be tilting your spine forward, you can see from the down the line camera again, so that you have an angle here from the spine to the golf club of around about 100 degrees. This will allow you to turn your shoulders in close to the same angle as you're wanting to swing the golf club. Therefore, the forces that the shoulders bring to the swing will be working in the same plane. And this is all about getting the energy all working together. The energy you will be creating from your body turn, rotating, and at the same time the lifting and dropping and the hinging and releasing of the golf club. So the first thing is basically to look at the body rotation. Here you're intuitively not going to want to move your legs and your hips, and that's incorrect. You've got to do it. I know that your intuition will be saying, well, I might not hit the ball. You have to move your legs and your hips. And you've got to simply learn to move your legs and your hips and stay centered over the ball. So even if you take a golf ball and put it in front of your feet and just keep your eyes on it, you want to have the feeling that you can just rotate and keep your eyes on the ball. So as I rotate away from the target, you can see that my trail leg is straightening a little bit, my lead leg is bending a bit. That's helping me to stay centered. The feeling is that my weight kind of wanders a bit to the right, or here to the right to my trail leg, and then wanders back to the middle as my lead leg bends, and is even at the end of the swing more, or the end of the turn, more on my lead foot. Don't forget there is no swing yet. There's nothing pulling you in this direction. So if you're just practicing this movement, then don't worry if you have the feeling of having more weight on your lead foot than on your trail foot when you get to the end of the rotation. From there, you want to bend the trail knee again and allow your hips not only to rotate back to where they were, but to rotate as far as they can forwards before standing up, and you can then even stand up and look where you were wanting to hit the golf ball. Getting your body simply to do this movement on a daily basis would be excellent, because it's kind of the foundation of your swing. This movement's going to be carrying all the other movements that you're making, and getting your feet to be active will help you to turn your hips. Getting your hips turning will help you to turn your shoulders, which are the real kind of motor of the swing. When you're turning your shoulders, we're turning the shoulders not just in a normal way, but by actually turning and bending or tilting the body down. I'm trying to get this lead shoulder down so that the armpit is more or less pointing at the ball. At least that's the feeling. In truth, it's pointing above the ball, but that's the kind of feeling I want. And this allows my spine to go into a side bend, crunching the muscles in my left side here and stretching the muscles in my right side. When I go back in the other direction, then I relax the spine, and then it bows in the other direction as I go through. And this crunching of the stomach muscles is helping to pull down the shoulder and get the shoulders rotating more or less on the same plane as the golf club is wanting to swing. And keeping this kind of centered movement as like the frame of the child's swing will help you to control the low point in the swing, and therefore where and when you hit the golf ball. Combining the body movement with the arms and the hands is always the difficult thing in this game, and irrespective of how good you are at it, that's the thing that is difficult and remains difficult throughout your entire golfing life. That's the reason that the pros hit it in the bushes as well, because they lose the synchronization. Now, we could argue about why they do that, but let's just say it's all about getting the tension in the wrong places at the wrong time, and that's enough for you to start hitting the ball into the bushes. How do you start as a beginner then? Well, really it's about getting used to turning your lead shoulder down to the ball and lifting your arms up at the same time. If you don't lift your arms up, your arms and club will swing behind the stick that I have in the ground here, which, as I say, I try to put in the ground at the same angle as the club has in the address position. Then turning and lifting will lift the hands above, and turning, lifting and hinging will get the club on plane. Now, that's not quite as simple as it seems. I'm actually lifting, hinging up and rotating the club to get it there. I'm not, however, thinking about it. I'm using a mirror behind the down the line camera to show me that that's correct, and then I'll try it without looking and then see, am I there? The trick is to get a feeling for this, combining it with the rotation of the shoulders. Again, not lifting quick enough will get me behind. Lifting quicker than I'm turning, and I'll start to get a great big loop going on in the backswing. But it's all about getting feedback. So if you don't have a mirror on the driving range, maybe in your garden using the windows of your house, you might be able to see reflection in those. And otherwise, it's all about getting a camera down the line, maybe your mobile device, and filming yourself so that you can actually see if you are doing this correctly. I have the feeling of really starting lifting and hinging almost immediately. I don't try and swing to a particular point and then do it. It's happening immediately. But if you look in the actual pictures, you're not seeing that. You're seeing more as if it's kind of gone across and then it's gone up. It's not what I'm feeling. I'm feeling lift and hinge. Lift and hinge. And for a lot of you, it will feel like that and look like this. It's all about getting feel and real closer to one another. If you can do that, then you're in the perfect position at the top of your backswing. Well, it's not quite the top, is it? But we are only in lesson 2. So what we're trying to do is to get the club to come back to around about chest height. If I can lift it up to chest height, it's at this position I should have the club on plane. How do we get back to the ball? Well, we let the club fall. If we do that, of course, it will just hit into the ground, because in the address position, as you can see here, there is an angle between the club and my arms. That means truly that the club is actually too long. If I really want to look at it, it's going to actually catch the ground here, and allowing the wrist to release and the weight of the club to pull towards the ground will actually try and create a straight line between my lead arm and the club, and it will just basically hit the ground, which is why we're turning. Turning the body will apply pressure to the handle and pull the handle around your body, and the pulling of the grip end will actually create inertia in the club and delay the release of the angles of the club, therefore moving the low point from the center of your stand further forward, and therefore the deepest point in the swing is actually going to be around about here when the ball is long gone. This is the big timing equation, letting the arms fall and turning the body at the right time. Now, in all of the good golf books, they're describing a motion which is starting with the body and then dragging the arms, and at last come the hands. So all of you out there, even the beginners, are trying to do this. Turn your hips, then let your arms down, and then release the club. Don't do this as a beginner. As a beginner, you won't be able to coordinate it, and you will simply not get your arms down fast enough. Generally, when you start to turn your body, you will actually grip the club too tightly then, and the arms will not drop down quick enough to get back to the ball on the correct plane. It will just pull them around and make them swing across your body, and in my case, to the left of target. You're going to have the feeling of letting the arms simply drop out of the sky here, and before disaster strikes, turning the body to the target. Now, this is going to take some practice. Obviously, I've been practicing a little bit so I don't make a fool of myself, but what we're trying to do is lift the thing up onto plane, then let it fall so the club basically drops down onto plane and releases itself through the ball. By doing that, I can then time my turn, and the club should come back to the golf ball of its own volition. And of course, it will swing further around me depending on how big my rotation is. So I might actually then start to accelerate the rotation as the club gets down here. I turn faster through the ball, and the ball will actually go a little bit further. The trick is not to get accelerating the club too early. When you rotate away from the target, you're creating tension in your body. Just relaxing will get you to come back to the ball. When you think at the top of your swing, rotate, you will rotate. But as a beginner, you will then stop when you get back to the ball, and the club will catch you up and you'll hit into the ground anyway. If, on the contrary, you just have the feeling of letting your arms drop, well, what do you think is going to happen with your body when you do that? Your body doesn't want to stay in this position because there's too much tension in it. Relax your body at the same time, and it will come back to its starting position. And just before the club gets to the ground, you will tell it to turn again. And because it's doing that, you are actually going to turn past the ball. If you start to turn too early consciously, you probably won't get past the ball. If you start to turn later, you will turn past the ball, because that's the first time that this command has come through the system to your legs and your hips and your shoulders and says actively turn towards the ball. So what we're actually doing is we are tricking ourselves into making a dynamic turn, which is actually going to turn our hips and our shoulders past their starting position. That will drag the arms around me and accelerate the grip end, which will accelerate the golf club and delay the release of these angles, which will basically help me to get a better contact with the ball and accelerate the club, creating a small catapult effect, which actually is going to accelerate the club thanks to the lever that we've created between the lead arm and the golf club. Whew. And that's about it for the second lesson. If you can get your body to be stable but mobile, rotating around a central axis somewhere in the middle of your chest, at the same time lifting and hinging the club so that you are putting it into its own plane or angle to the ground, and then allowing it to swing down this angle and through the ball, you will find that you start hitting the ball almost by itself without any great physical effort, as long as you turn at the right time through the ball. Of course, it's not always going to work. Sometimes you'll catch the ground before the ball. Then you know that you haven't turned at the right moment. Sometimes you might not even hit the ground at all. Then you'll know you probably haven't let your arms relax and let the club fall. So you're gonna get some feedback, but doing it correctly, you should be hitting nice, gentle shots down the fairway in no time whatsoever. It's probably not the way that you learn golf, but it might even help you as an advanced golfer. So why not try it if you're struggling out there? Otherwise, if you know somebody who wants to take up the game, get this video downloaded for them and let them watch it until they actually start hitting the golf ball better than you are. If you liked it, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Why not? It's free. And thank you to all of my patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, I shall leave a link below. We'll be back latest next Sunday. Until then, goodbye.